Welcome back to the Pro Football Hall of Fame for another installment of the Pro Football Hall of Fame series before the snap from a snowy, cold Northeast Ohio here today. We're happy to be back here, though, live on YouTube with our newest special guest, Ryan Robbins, who works literally right up the hill here as part of Hall of Fame Village. And you'll see, because we got some weather, he's actually in his home. He's not in the office today, so we had to do it remotely. I know when we have our great co-workers over there at the Hall of Fame Village participate. Sometimes we try and do it at a cool spot on campus, but couldn't today due to the weather. So we still wanted to make sure we brought this program to you live today. So he's going to be doing this from his house. If you've never tuned in and you're a new viewer here today, first and foremost, thank you for tuning in. You're going to learn what it takes to have a career in and around sports. Now, we usually try and focus on the NFL. We'll work with all the NFL teams, but you're going to get a real good look into what's going on right here in our backyard in Northeast Ohio, specifically in Canton, with all things Hall of Fame Village, and learn a little bit about what it took our special guest here, Mr. Robbins, to get to where he is today, pretty much back home, where the whole journey started. And if you've tuned in with us before, you always know what's going to be happening today, and we thank you for tuning in again. Before we do get started, though, a little bit about us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's our mission to honor the greatest of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence together. And those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and honesty, all of which made our 371 Hall of Famers the best football players of all time. But also can make you a great student, make you a great employee of an organization. And you'll see these values kind of pop up throughout the program today. And it just goes to show how important that they are. Before we do get started, some thank yous I'd like to pass out. I'd like to thank all the educators, professors, career counselors who sent this program out to their students today and tuning in. Whether you're watching us live or you're watching us 6 months down the road, we appreciate you tuned in here today to learn a little bit about careers in sport. Secondly, have to thank all the students. Without this program here, it doesn't take place. The program is here for you students to start your networking journey. So the way we do it is, if you're watching us live, go ahead and throw a live chat there like I said, into the live chat with your name, the school you're watching from, and then go ahead and put your question there. As always, even if you don't have a question, we want to know all the great colleges and universities we have tuned in today. So go ahead and let us know where you're watching from, whether you're watching us from down south where it's nice and warm, or you're right here in our backyard. Learning a little bit about careers in sport. Go ahead and let us know what schools you're watching from. And if you do have a question, don't be shy. Go ahead and throw it there in the chat as well. And then lastly, I have to thank our special guest today, who we're lucky to be joined by, Mr. Ryan Robbins. Has 11 years of experience with 3 NFL clubs: the New Orleans Saints, the Cleveland Browns, and the now Las Vegas Raiders, previous the Oakland Raiders. In addition to his 2 years in the MLS with the Chicago Fire and 8 years with the Cleveland Indians, now the Cleveland Guardians, prior to joining Hall of Fame Village where he is today. His responsibilities include business development and corporate partnership sales. He began his teaching career, so he also is a teacher at Kent State in 2019 and is now currently teaching some classes at the University of Baldwin-Wallace. He holds a bachelor's in sport management from now University of Mount Union, and received his MBA from Baldwin-Wallace College, and is currently enrolled in the sport management PhD program at Troy University. Talk a lot of today about furthering your education. Currently resides in Avon Lake with his wife Corinna and their 2 dogs. I'm not even going to try and pronounce those, but he does have 2 dogs. We'd like to welcome our special guest today, Mr. Ryan Robbins. Ryan, welcome to Before the Snap.
Thanks for having me, Jake. We really appreciate the opportunity and look forward to trying to help some of these college students out here.
We're definitely hoping that happens. We hope that those college students realize the opportunity they have literally at their fingertips right now to start their networking career, whether they've done it already and this is somebody new, or this is the first person they're going to be listening to. So I always joke the perks of hosting the program is I always get to ask the first question. And it's a program we always like to start. Question we always like to start with is, day to day, what does your job look like? Your title, the things you handle on a day-to-day basis. Now we know that's going to be different depending on the season and the time of the year. But in general, what's the day-to-day life look like for you over at Hall of Fame Village?
My main responsibility is obviously selling corporate partnerships for our company, and I've been at the Village for a little over 4 years. So I was one of the first couple dozen of employees here at the Village, and love the opportunity. It was really an opportunity for me to kind of come home. I grew up 15 minutes from the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the campus, and really my opportunity to kind of give back to my local community and help us build this village any way that I can help. Day to day, it's a lot of reaching out to brands, local, regional, national brands, to see what business things they need to cure and how we can really help them do that through a corporate partnership. We've been, you know, here for about 4 years. We have been really picking up steam in the last year or so because we still have a lot of facilities that are open now on campus. And it's really exciting time to be able to continue that construction. And we're building a big water park right now, so that's opening in hopefully about a year. And we're looking forward to having it open because it's going to bring a lot of joy to a lot of families coming to our campus.
Absolutely. And Ryan, obviously we live and breathe Canton, Ohio here. We know what Hall of Fame Village is inside the building. And I'm sure we have some students who are local who know what it is well. But can you kind of give everybody a 10,000-foot view of just what Hall of Fame Village is and all the different aspects and parts of the entire campus that's right here in the backyard of the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I mean, for those out there that play the stock market too, we are HOFV on the NASDAQ ticker. We're a publicly traded company. Our parent company name is Hall of Fame Resort and Entertainment Company. Um, Folks know us mainly by the Hall of Fame Village. Think of that as our sports and entertainment destination here in Canton that surrounds the Great Pro Football Hall of Fame. We have many facilities from the football stadium, the Center for Performance, which is an indoor performance dome. We have 8 fields at the Forever Lawn Sports Complex. Shout out to our partners at Forever Lawn. We have retail, we have restaurants, we have a brew kettle beer brewery, we have Shula's American Kitchen, pizza oven, Build-A-Bear, football themed Build-A-Bear. Visit Canton, Haggie's are all open. Play Action Plaza is our 3-acre park. Ferris wheel, zip line, and a power tower, along with concessions, fire pit, amphitheater for concerts. The largest man-made waterfall in the state of Ohio. And I mentioned our big water park that we are in construction with now. That we broke ground in August and have the building constructed on the outside, and we're starting to work on the inside. So very exciting times. And then lastly, we will be in the future breaking ground on a 180 room hotel to be connected to the water park, so people have somewhere to stay when they come here.
Very cool. Truly is a village with all very cool different aspects. To make this truly a destination for people to come visit and not only take part, not only come here, see all the great things we have going on inside the museum, but take part in all the cool other things that the Hall of Fame Village will have to offer. Can you talk about, back to your job a little bit, when there's a water park opening up, a hotel being built, all these restaurants going in, for somebody in your role, how exciting is that? Because it's just more and more opportunities for you to really, at the end of the day, do your job and, reach out to these corporate sales, bring these companies on to be a part of the expansion. So what is that like for you when you get to see another cool aspect coming to fruition, walls going up and things being built?
It's definitely different, Jake, than, I worked for 4 professional sports teams over almost 20 years. And it's different. Our EVP of sales and marketing, Vic Grego, has always said, Blue Demons have been here since, or now Guardians, Indians when I was there. They've been here since 1901. They have a strong history. We've been here for a few years, so we're building. Not only are we building our physical campus, but we're building kind of our what we refer to as our fan base, folks that are coming. We have a very large indoor soccer league that is happening in Center for Performance right now. We have folks coming in to play soccer from elementary school kids to adults. We have hundreds of thousands of people that come and play in travel tournaments at the Forever Lawn Sports Complex. We have people that attend the Hall of Fame game and all those types of things. So we're bringing a lot. It's different than working for a pro sports team. Look, I loved working in the NFL. I worked for 3 teams. Really thankful for the opportunities that my mentors when I was younger in my career gave me the opportunity to work for those great franchises. And they were all great in their own respect. This is a little bit different because it's basically starting something from scratch, which is the exciting part to your point, Jake. When we have a facility like that, we are creating the opportunities, we are creating the inventory, we are creating the experiences and that kind of thing. And it's just not, our, business development team. We're working with events, we're working with operations, we're working with our executive team to create the right things based on best practices that we know, and the folks that we have consulted with to build these different facilities and have these experiences, to what people want to come you know time after time and experience. So it's definitely different because it's not a big scoreboard or an LED for a baseball game or programs for the community. We could be a lot of things with a lot of different people, which is kind of the exciting part about being involved in a real grassroots project like this.
And we don't got to dive in real in depth to this next question, but can you kind of tell all the students we got tuned in today kind of what your career path was and how did you get into sports and how has that led you to pretty much full circle back home in Northeast Ohio with your current role with the Hall of Fame Village?
Yes, as I mentioned, I grew up in Alliance, Ohio, the home of Mount Union. And I grew up about 15 minutes from the Hall of Fame, and about 15 minutes from Mount. Went there with aspirations to be an athlete. Didn't last too long. Cracked a couple of vertebrae in my back early, and then had to kind of pivot at 18. Say, all right, what do I want to do? And I went to an information session with our head of our program, Dr. Toma, and he was talking about the sport management program, and I was an incoming business major at the time. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't mind sitting around all day talking about sports, or doing whatever it is that I was going to end up doing. And ended up working out. Had a great 4 years at Mount. I had a little bit of unorthodox college experience because I ran a movie theater for a national company for almost the whole college time. I was assistant manager for a couple of years, and skipped around to a couple of theaters, and I kept going with my schooling because I know it's going to be really important for the rest of my life and my career, whatever it ended up being. And honestly, I was sitting in graduation in the gym on a Sunday. I'm like, okay, I've run the movie theater for a few years. I now have a degree. I not quite sure what I'm going to do. And thankfully, our other professor, Dr. Jim Katzek, he had some relationships. I had met a few people from a networking perspective at Teamwork Online. For all the students out there, if you don't have a Teamwork Online profile, do it today. It'll definitely work out for you in the long run. And Jim called me the next day because he got a call from Teamwork Online because the Saints were really looking for some new salespeople, some young salespeople out of college, and ended up working out. I took a 90-day part-time minimum wage paid gig to go be a salesperson, not knowing what that actually meant. I just knew I was going to work for an NFL team, and packed up my car, my college car, with everything that would fit in it. And if it didn't fit, it stayed in my parents' house, and drove to New Orleans without an apartment, and a guaranteed job for 90 days. And then got there and said, all right, there's no way these guys aren't going to hire me. So what do I need to do? So I was really, Mike Stanfield was my first boss, my first mentor down there. Mike is still with the Saints and the Pelicans. He was a great mentor for the time I was there. I thank him for giving me an opportunity. There's not many people out there that get to immediately start with an NFL team 2 weeks after they graduate. So I was really, really floored with the opportunity. Was there for 4 years. Ran a regional office in Baton Rouge my last year there, which was actually the office they used after Hurricane Katrina for the games that were being played at LSU. Moved to Cleveland and worked at the Browns for 4 years. Had the opportunity through a tuition program with the Browns, and got my MBA during the time I was with the Browns. A couple of months after that, got an opportunity through a recruiter that I had networked with, and he was recruiting the job at the Chicago Fire. So moved to Chicago, and worked at the Chicago Fire for 2 years as their director of sales. Had another recruiter relationship that brought something to my attention, and ended up leaving Chicago and moving to Oakland to run premium seating for the Raiders. Was at the Raiders for 3 years. Talk about brands. That's a brand. And was really happy with living in Northern California. It's a great place to live. And I was there for 3 years, and then I got a call from a sales trainer that I had used when he got a job description for director of premium seating at the Cleveland Indians and now Guardians. And I'm like, hey, if I can do that, and they're going to do some renovations, and I can be part of that, and I can live in Cleveland for a team that I've followed since I was a little kid, I jumped at the opportunity. and was there for 8 years. At the time, came in as premium. We were trying to, you know, sell some more suites and keep what we had, and then use some of that inventory because they built 140 suites in the mid 90s in the ballpark, and we needed a lower number of suites. So we combined some of them, made some clubs, and over the first few years did well. We ended up merging with corporate partnerships. So that's kind of how I got started in corporate partnerships. Was on the team running the premium and helping where I could on corporate partnerships. And then my trip to the village, I'm thankfully still on the advisory board at Mountain Union for the sport management program, and one of the other advisory members was our chief commercial officer at the time, and he called me when my job became available and they were recruiting it, and I said, hey, I've been trying to figure out how I was gonna get down there and work in Canton to help this Hall of Fame Village project. So I jumped at the chance, and it's been a great move for me.
Awesome. And I think that just goes to show, there are some people who, and there's no wrong way to do it, I don't think. There's some people who find the job, their niche, that thing they are so good at, and they stay there. You look at community relations and how those staffs on NFL teams, MLB teams kind of stay the same for a long time. And then there's people who jump around just like your story till they kind of find that one thing that they're meant to do. And I think it just goes to show that's how great working in sports can be, is that no matter what you prefer, you want to jump around, if you want to find your niche and stay there, that's great. And sports gives you the opportunity to do that for sure. So it's enough of me asking questions. I got a bunch more I could go through, but this is here for students to ask questions. So I'm gonna throw it over to Nathan Martin, Youth Education and Leadership Coordinator here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and he's on these questions as he is every week, and it's got some from our students. So Nathan, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. And Ryan, thanks for being a part of the program with us this afternoon. Our first question from a student, you'll be able to kind of, I guess, from your experience working with so many different organizations, I think you can answer this one well. This is from Cameron. He's a student at LSU, and just curious, computer science major, what type of career fields or I guess positions would someone like Cameron need to be looking for if they're trying to work in the NFL and just work in sports in general with a major like that?
Yeah, I mean, great major. Cameron must be very smart. It's a very difficult major to get through. LSU, I lived right down the street from it when I was in Baton Rouge, so I know the area well. There's a lot of opportunities. I think from an information technology perspective, it's they're generally not huge departments, but I'll use the Guardians example. We had a fairly large IT department. There was help desk folks, people like me who break on my laptop and I go, I don't know what I did, but it doesn't work. So there's definitely help there. But the Guardians have a very large business information department as well. There is CRM opportunities. We have every sales team, corporate partnerships, tickets, or anything else. We need the customer relationship management to keep all this information in a housed place where we can get to it and not have to keep Excel spreadsheets, the size of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And so at the Guardians, we had somebody who ran that thing internally for us. There's also database from a programming perspective. MLB teams, NFL teams have databases that they keep player information in so they can refer to it from a free agency perspective and film and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of opportunities, I think, where you could go a lot of different directions. And there's lots of things that are from a technological perspective that are coming out from a weekly basis. I was just on a call with our IT guys this morning with a potential partner opportunity, and they're talking about some stuff that I don't even know what it is. And just sitting there kind of learning from our IT guys and all the different systems and products and everything that need to happen. You talk a little bit about ongoing education. That's one thing you got to keep sharp on all the time because it changes so much. But yeah, that's a great opportunity for a long career in sports, because I think now more than in the past, it's very important because of all the technological opportunities and connecting with fans and retargeting those fans to come out and buy more tickets or buy a partnership or give them coupons where they can go to the team shop and buy things. And there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, I think you did a great job explaining that and really hopefully opening Cameron's eyes and several other students that maybe are watching to the just multiple opportunities that really exist in that field. Um, our next question, this comes from Julian, a student from the University of Evansville. What are some unexpected skills that you had to develop while working in the sports world? Something you didn't really think about when you took that 90-day job with the Saints, and you're like, wow, I've really learned this skill or really developed this skill over my career now.
My thought of what ticket sales was before I got to New Orleans was my experience at the movie theater selling tickets in the window. And it's actually what my wife's family thought I did before I explained it to them. That's not what I'm doing. And so there's a lot of different things. Learning sales and continuing, just like our IT question, continuing to hone that skill is a repetition scenario. One of the things that, from a sales perspective, that really shocked me was how to deal with rejection. Because, 8 times out of 10, you'll get on someone on the phone or get an email from somebody that you kind of were prospecting and they're not interested. So you got to let it kind of roll off your back a little bit and just move on to the next one. But going back, Nathan, to my first job in New Orleans, the different things you would get involved in, I thought it was just ticket sales, but I ended up running for Mike Stanfield, my boss. We had a bunch of hospitality rooms, so putting together hospitality programs with food and beverage menus and that kind of stuff was a little out of my lane. But we had some smart people that helped me kind of figure out the packages and that kind of stuff. And I got involved in a lot of different things with Mike there, and it's really helped me kind of transition from that ticket sales role into the hospitality role from a premium perspective, where I had 6 or 8 years where I was helping from a premium perspective, which is it's sales and it's service and it's food and beverage and it's helping with operations because something broke, there's a seat broke or the TV broke. Just being able to keep all that stuff organized so that it gives a good experience to the customer.
Yeah, I think those skills are important. And what I loved there was kind of there at the end, and it's something our students can pull from that, is being willing to help with anything and kind of learn anything. I think sometimes we take a job or an internship and it's like, oh, it says I'm marketing, or it says that I'm sales, or it says that I'm youth and education, and it's like that's what I got to do. But it's important for our students to know, and really even us as we get farther and farther in our careers, you always need to have a willingness to help where you're needed. And I can see that in your career and appreciate that. I'm going to send it back to Jake. Keep looking at the students' questions here. Students, keep firing them in. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know where you're watching and let us know what question you have for Ryan. But for now, I'm going to send it back to Jake.
Awesome. Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate you getting to those questions for us. And I know we're going to have some more coming later in the program as well. So students keep submitting them and we'll do our best to make them as part of the program. Ryan, I want to talk a little bit about, outside the classroom, outside of what a job looks like on a day-to-day basis. I want to talk a little bit about networking and how important it is. We always talk about how we all know how important it is, but it's actually getting out to do it. So I want to first look at networking from a college student perspective. Can you talk a little bit about how important it was for you when you were in college to network and kind of grow? And you talk a little bit about your time there at Mount Union and the vast network that you were able to get there. But then also talk a little bit about why it's important now. And you talked about the reason you got jobs was because of the network that you do. So why is it important to continually network even once you are in that job that you love?
Yep. I mean, it's a good question, Jake. I mean, from a sales perspective, vitally important. It's not necessarily who you know, but who knows them. And going back to your point on when I was at Mount Union, and Dr. Kavlicek introduced me to a guy named Scott Cobb, who ran client services for Teamwork Online in Buffy Philippel. If I didn't, I literally went to a job fair, and Jim had given Scott my name, and I went to the job fair at the Cleveland Cavs, and met Scott and spent a couple of minutes with him, and told him kind of what I was looking to do, and that was it. We exchanged emails a couple times, and this is the late '90s, so email was just becoming something at that point in time. But and then Scott placed Mike Stanfield at the Saints, and Mike said, "Hey, I need to hire a few folks out of college to come and be on the ticket sales team here. So, and if I hadn't met Scott, or if Jim didn't know Scott, that opportunity would have never happened for me. And it's a lot easier nowadays because there's so many jobs that get posted on teamwork and everything. And, it's a little easier, now than it was at that point in time, but there's so much more competition now. So many more sport management programs. There's so many people that aren't even in a sport management program that want to work for a team that are business majors or communications or, some other major. So networking to get your first job is very important. One of the things we tell our students at Ball and Wallace in our classes, I teach the sports sales and sponsorship class, and they're juniors and seniors. That relationship that I started in 1999 with Buffy Philippel, my first class was a couple of weeks ago. Buffy was a guest physically in my class, making sure everybody was signed up so they could get internship and inside sales opening, emails in their inboxes so they can start looking at opportunities. But one thing we go through and we talk to them about, we read, there's a hustle book that was written by Travis Apple, who's an industry pro, an Ohio guy as well. And it's a 7-chapter book showing the college students, like, here's what you do to get your first job. Here's what you do to your LinkedIn profile. Here's who you reach out to, like, figure out where you want to live or what team you work for, what job you want. And then what we kind of talk about is reach out to those people via LinkedIn or get their email address, send them an email. And we talk about all the time in class, the folks that want to be a good mentor for you when you're in that job, they give you 10 minutes.
And
so reach out to them. Don't be shy about reaching out to people via LinkedIn. Never send a LinkedIn message without a message. Don't send a blank one. Remember, these people are very busy people for all the college students out there. So they're busy people. They get a lot of messages on LinkedIn. They got a lot of people that reach out to them because they have 10 jobs and 400 people want them. But if they're going to be a mentor for you and it's going to be a good opportunity, and then they'll give you 10 minutes because their job is to recruit people like you coming out of college so that they can do their job.
not only is it their job, but they were in that seat once and they appreciated those 10 minutes. That's something that I try my best to do. And I know Nathan and Jerry here at the Hall of Fame, it's truly all of our staff, and I'm sure it's the same with the Village, try to give back as much as they can because they were those students at one point looking for a job, and they're in the other seat I always like joke on the other side of the table now. And it's our goal to help foster that next wave of students who are coming in to work in sports. So I think that's very important to keep your network growing. I also want to talk on the student side. Is you mentioned you're teaching classes, teaching students how to be professionals. You've been on the other side of the table interviewing people for jobs. So the question I want, as somebody who works with students, what is one thing that you really stress the students to stand out in your opinion? Is it something on the resume? Is it internships? Is it experiences? What is one thing you're really stressing the students to show, hey, this is important and this is something I would look for and I know other employers look for? What are some of those things that students should be mindful of?
I mean, the one thing, Jake, resume, check the spelling, have it laid out. Use your writing center at your college. They will help you write the resume. There's folks out there that the universities employ specifically for this reason. Use the resources you have. Most universities, these are free resources for the most part. So use things that are free. But you can Google this too, like what's a good resume look like. Remember when you're listing job responsibilities, put them in the right tense. If it's a job you're currently doing, should be in the present tense. If it's something you did before, should be in the past tense. Action verbs, achieved, directed, assisted with, these things that people look for, because you're not going to get to talk to these people that interview you. You're going to get to talk to them on paper, and they want smart people working for them. So resume is one thing. The other thing is volunteer. BW Baldwin Wallace does this a lot. There's a lot of other schools that do this where the school will give you opportunities to travel to Super Bowl and F1 in Miami and Indy 500 and the Final Four and CFP Championship or if your school isn't doing those, ask your professors about it, because those are great opportunities. I know you guys probably see bald wall students at the Super Bowl when you guys go to the Super Bowl with the Hall, and they're working, the NFL experience, and they're working escorting people to get them to the right place so they don't get lost. Like, those are great resume builders. People, because when you come out of college, most of everybody's resume is going to look fairly similar because you were in college. You don't have that much experience yet, but that volunteer experience, and it doesn't really need to be immediate trips. Do on campus stuff. There's running events, and there's whatever division football team or baseball team or basketball team you guys have sports. Volunteer to do stats. Volunteer to work in the arena or the baseball field where you can put stuff in your resume. There's tons of different things you can do. If you want to work in sales, like I did when I got out of college, go get a part-time sales job somewhere. Work at Best Buy. Be a server at a restaurant. Like, do something to hone those skills outside of the classes.
Awesome. And I think those are all great tips and tricks to help it. I'm sure it's something that even people, young professionals, that are going to have to know once you get a job. Like we talked about, your journey was to all these different teams. Like, that resume is going to have to be updated every time a new opportunity presents itself. So always something that's continual learning. I got one last question here, and I'm going to throw back to Nathan, kind of more of a personal question. You look at your career, working with so many different franchises, being a part of so many different things. We always like to ask, when your career's over, you're kicked back in the lazy boy, your grandkids are asking you, what's that one thing like you can't believe you were a part of? So looking back on your career up to this point, is there an event? Is there a play? Is there a moment that sticks out to you as, wow, I can't believe I was there? Because working in sports do give you the opportunity to be a part of some very cool experiences.
There's a couple. Sorry, Jerry, it's not when we went to Super Bowl together in Detroit. Um, there's a couple that happened a while ago. There's so many different memories that you have, and you kind of pinch yourself that you had the opportunity to be in these places. But the two that I'll mention really quick. My first year in New Orleans, the team had been there for 34 years, since 1967. They had never won a playoff game. They've been in the playoffs a few times in the 80s, but they never won a playoff game. And I was on the field with Mike and a couple other people, Mike Steenfield. In the fourth quarter, we were playing St. Louis Rams, greatest show on turf. Could score at will for whatever reason. We held them pretty well in the first half, and they came out at halftime and were ridiculous. We couldn't do anything to stop them. And we were standing on the field, and we punted to the Rams, and literally like 15 feet in front of Mike and I, they dropped the punt on like the 10-yard line. And I've never heard a place that incredibly loud when that happened. And that's a moment I can still kind of feel the crowd and everything. And literally we winning the game. Was a close game. It was the first playoff win in the history of the franchise. We literally, no one wanted to leave the stadium. People were going crazy. Mr. Benson was dancing on the field with his Mardi Gras umbrella, and everybody's had a really, really awesome time. The other one I'll say is more of a personal memory than at a game. Is it my uncle, who passed a couple years ago, huge sports fan, never in a Super Bowl. And the second year I was in New Orleans was the Rams Patriots Super Bowl with Vinatieri's kick at the end of the game. And first Super Bowl for Tom Brady. And it was after 9/11. So it was the first Super Bowl after 9/11. So security was crazy getting in the dome, and just be able to share that opportunity with my uncle, because he never been in the Super Bowl, always wanted to go. And I ended up getting his tickets. They were not very good tickets. They were in the upper level, like about 10 rows from the top, but it was a really cool experience. And, we went to NFL Experience earlier that day and got a picture taken that got put in a football that's still in my office at the Village. So it was a pretty cool opportunity to be able to give that to him and give back to all the cool things that he did for me when I was growing up. So.
Awesome. Yeah. And that's the beauty of sports, is that it allows you to have moments just like that. So I'm going to throw it over to Nathan now. It's got some more questions from our students to continue moving on here. So Nathan, go ahead and take it away.
Yep. Thanks, Jake. We do have a lot of questions coming in here from the students. First one's real quick. Ryan, this is from actually a career advisor down at James Madison that's tuned in right now. What was the title of that book that you mentioned that your students you used with them at Baldwin Wallace? They want to be
Is
able to share. Go ahead. They want to share it with the students at James Madison as well.
Yep. Is um the author is Travis Apple. And the title is Hustle Your Way to Sports Sales.
Travis
Yeah, but
Apple, Hustle Your
yeah,
Way to Sports Sales.
yep. I'm trying to look on my bookshelf to see if I have the copy. And I don't. It's at my office. Um, but feel free to message me on LinkedIn too, and I can find it's on Amazon. If you search Travis Apple, it'll come up on Amazon. That's where my students buy it on, is Amazon. So it's a good book. It's a short read. We go through, and then Travis comes in our class in April and answers questions about the book and his story and everything. So
Awesome, really cool, and hopefully our students that are watching that aren't James Madison students, look that up on Amazon. Do a little bit of research yourself and a little bit of learning for yourself with that. Next question though from a student. This is from Gia, a student at Purdue. What's been the most rewarding thing? And I know Jake talked about some memorable experiences, but the most rewarding thing that you've been able to do throughout your career?
oh, that's a good question. Um, I think if I think back to some of the great experiences I had, and uh, look, most of the time in our business, um, teams that need sports salespeople like me aren't your New England Patriots and your Los Angeles Lakers and that are successful every year. So uh, if you're in sales and you're doing this, chances are there's probably gonna be a lot of losing. But in order to go through those trials and tribulations, I think back to 2016 when I was at the Indians, now Guardians, and when we went to the World Series, and really no one thought we were going to be there. I know Nathan's hanging his head; he knows. Um, it was not a rewarding experience to go into extra innings and lose. That was a heartbreaker, but to see everybody that it had been almost probably 18 years since the Indians had been in a World Series. Still yet to win, but we're hopeful that someday that will happen. Hope springs eternal in Cleveland. If you're not from Cleveland, you may not know what that means, but um, it. But traveling with some of our customers to Chicago to the World Series for these huge, large companies that we had relationships with, and seeing how these big C-level executives are just as excited as you are, or as excited as an elementary school kid to meet their favorite player and that kind of stuff. That really kind of makes the hard work kind of pay off a little bit when they are having a great time and they can use the tools that we've given them through their relationship with the organizations, and bring their customers or their kids, or you know help them create an opportunity to solve one of their business challenges through a corporate partnership or through a suite and that kind of thing. That's kind of the rewarding part, that what you told them you could do for them actually comes true. And you work together to be able to create those outcomes and that kind of thing. And when that happens, it doesn't happen all the time, but when you're doing things the right way and with the right people, good things happen.
Man, when you mentioned the World Series loss, you just put me in my feelings and everything, but that's okay. Like you said, I think just the memories. I can think personally, and then I don't need to talk that long, but I went to several playoff games that year with my brothers and stuff, and it's just those are some of my fondest memories. And yeah, they end up losing the World Series, but it's a great thing to look back on, and you got to be a part of creating memories for so many people that year for sure. This next question, this comes from let me find it here, Brandon, student at Baldwin Wallace. Do you see esports becoming the next big market for sales and sponsorship? I think that's something that students are becoming more and more aware. I mean, even from my generation to the college students now, like esports just continues to grow. So how do you see that impacting, I guess, the sport industry in the coming years?
Yeah, I mean it's been a hot thing for the last few years. It's gaining a lot of steam. At Hall of Fame Village, we do have a esports division that is, we've hosted 3 or 4 tournaments. There's another young gentleman, Stephen Grenier, also from Mountain Union, who is a great resource, knows a ton about the business. And it's an interesting thing because there's no right path because it hasn't been around long enough to have a right path. And having tournaments, and we went up with Steven to a big conference in Sandusky about 6 or 8 months ago, and that really opened my eyes. There was a lot of people there, and a lot of games going on in different ways. It's a different sport because of the streaming technology. And that's how the sport is consumed for the most part. But you have these huge companies like Riot and a bunch of others that are doing all these things to bring these tournaments to the markets. And there's games going on. And my wife and I watched the Gran Turismo movie a couple weeks ago, and that whole thing is based on esports. And there's so many different things. I think the NBA has done a phenomenal job with 2K, and they were an early adopter, as well as a lot of the NBA teams were too, into 2K. And my first day at the Village, we toured the Cavs Legion offices on the west side of Cleveland, and they were just building it at the time, but there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of different brands from a sponsorship perspective that want to connect with that. Coca-Cola is one of our partners, and that's one of the things that they wanted to do was get involved in esports. So I think the market is, I would say, untapped at this point in time, but esports is coming, and I think it's going to be around for a long time.
Yeah, I think this is a good follow-up actually from our students here. I appreciate your answer there, centered around esports, but maybe we have younger students that are watching, they're the first year, maybe even second year of college, they're unsure. They've selected sport management or, that major, but that's so broad. What do you think are some of the areas within that field that'll be looking to hire more in the next, 3 to 5 years as these students are graduating with undergrads or masters? What are maybe some specific areas they can try to gain experience in now so that they'll be very hireable again when they're ready to look for that full-time job?
Yeah, I mean, esports is one. There's brand jobs. There is, you look at the technology part, and this is IT, social media, all those things. A lot of the people in those new developing uh, areas of our business are young, and they're teaching people like me that have been in the business 20 years, like what actually needs to be done. And like we go to Steven if there's anything esports related, because he has a ton of knowledge and a ton of relationships in that space. The other thing that I think you really need to kind of look at is the sports betting side. And Jake mentioned that I started my PhD. I'm a year into my PhD at Troy, and planning on centering in my dissertation on sports betting, because again, it's been around for a long time. Since 2016, it's become much more apparent and much more talked about, and opportunities based on legalization, based on the state you live in and everything. So, but there's things like that. And one of the reasons that I, decided to go that direction with my dissertation that I'll write in a couple of years is because it's like fantasy football from 20 years ago. A lot of the articles that I researched are fantasy football related articles, but there's so many comparisons of where fantasy football was then and where sports betting is now. You got to look at those things that are you can develop a niche in, to build a reputation and be hopefully one of the experts in one of these different silos of new business. And there's a lot of brains that want to connect with those folks. They don't necessarily all know how to get into those markets and everything. So there's a lot of opportunity out there that I can't even put my finger on because I haven't dove deep enough into it. But there's something out there that we don't know about now that'll in 2 years from now will be the next hot thing. And if it has legs and people start investing in it from a sports team perspective, I mean, you couldn't tell me 10 years ago that 80% of the NBA teams would have an esports video game division of their team. Like, people would look at you like you're crazy.
I would have been one of them. This next question, and this is actually a good way here for our students to kind of wrap up. We're not going to get to all the questions. I appreciate our students for being so active in the chat today on YouTube. Really appreciate that. If we didn't get to your question, and even if we did, we've put Ryan's LinkedIn, the link to get straight to his page, so you have no trouble looking for him on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with him. If ask your question, let him know that you saw him on Before the Snap today. I'm sure when he gets some time, he'll get onto LinkedIn. He'd be more than happy to answer those and connect with you guys. But this last question from a student is, throughout your career, you've been all over the place. You've mentioned how networking has benefited you and helping you get different positions. If you're talking to college students, what is like the best piece of networking advice that you could give them so that where they're at right now, they can hopefully set themselves up to have those relationships to land them some jobs in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it a little bit before too, is do things now while you're in college. And if there's freshmen on this YouTube right now, now's your time. Don't wait until you're a senior.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of time now for you to dedicate some time each week to meeting someone new in the job that you want to have. If you know that job now, that's great. A lot of you probably don't know what you want to do. I mean, like I mentioned before, I was sitting in graduation not knowing what I wanted to do when I got out of undergrad. So there's a lot of opportunities out there to use your time efficiently and meet people, but reach out and look at, what city do you want to live in? Do you want to live in your home city, or do you want to move? What are those? Look at the staffing directories on some of these teams. Are there job titles out there that you didn't know about that you can then research? Reach out to these people via LinkedIn, or if you have their email address. Some of the SEAL executives have email addresses on their team websites, so reach out via there. And you're just, the more people you know, and people in positions like mine or Nathan's or Jacob's, know a lot of people. A lot of people know them. So how many degrees of separation can you get until you meet some people? On LinkedIn, you could always look at people's connections, and if you link up with me or Jake, you can look at who our whole network is. So let's look in there. You can do a search within that list of people, and if you're looking for a specific title or a city, figure out what city you want to live in, or a few different cities that you would like to live in, or find out like what title you want to have eventually. Always be looking for kind of the next step. One of your next step right now, if you're in college, is get your first entry level job. And then after that, it's all right, how do I get full time? How do I be a manager? How do I be a director? And always continue to talk to people that could potentially be your mentor. But reaching out to those people, like I talked about before, simple small note on LinkedIn or email, ask them for 10 minutes of their time. If you live in the city that these people are, ask them to go to coffee in the morning. Those types of things set people apart. And especially from a sales perspective, people that sell are more mainly extroverted, as I was put that label on myself. Those are mostly your sales folks. So treat the introduction process and the networking process like a sale. When you apply for jobs, don't just apply for the job and hope someone calls you back. Um, get the number off the website to the receptionist. Try to get the person that you will be the hiring manager on the phone. Send them an email. If you have a job interview, send them a follow-up email that day, thanking them for their time. If it was a face-to-face interview, when I did face-to-face interviews back in the day, I would have the thank you cards written out, and so it didn't have 2 or 3 days until I got to the person. When I left, I would just put it on the receptionist the desk and ask them if they can put it in the internal mail, and they would get it later that day or the next morning. There's little things like that I've learned from other people. I didn't come up with this stuff. It's people asking, how can I get better? How can I get the job that I want to get? How can I continue to progress my career and that kind of thing? So there's certain things like that I think you can kind of do. But right now, if you're in college, the real big thing is reaching out to people and developing a network, so that you have it when you're getting out of school and looking for your first job.
The kind of theme that I pulled from that, and there was so much great advice there for our students, is number one, be intentional. I think you're just talking about setting aside time to do this. Yes, it is work, but the reality is it's not hard work that you're being asked to do. Just be intentional about doing that and looking for job titles in cities that you're interested in, and reaching out to people on LinkedIn or through email. And then you got to have a little bit of persistence, being intentional and a little bit of persistence. You might reach out to 10 people and maybe only 3 of them get back to you, but those 3 people could be very valuable to your network. And don't be, afraid to follow up if you didn't hear back, in a timely manner. So I think both those things the students can pull from. Ryan, really appreciate you being on the program. On behalf of myself, on behalf of the students, we just really want to thank you for taking some time out of your Friday to join us. But I'm going to send it back to Jake because he's got a couple things to finish up with here.
Awesome. Thanks, Nathan. Again, thanks to all the students who got their questions in for us today. And Nathan said, if your question did not get asked, the door is open for you to start that networking journey on a simple LinkedIn connection. Ryan, got a couple more questions for you here. We're going to start with our rapid fire segment, and then we'll kind of wrap up with one final question. Sound good?
Sure. Absolutely.
All right. Rapid fire question number 1. LinkedIn, great way to network or just another social media
app? Depends how you use it.
That's a good answer. Number 2, GPA on a resume, keep it on or leave it off?
All right. Mantra, if you're a year out of school, no one cares.
Okay.
What
Number
your
3
GPA is. If it's a good GPA, 3.5 or up, probably will get you noticed on your first job. After that, it's all job performance.
Number 3, social media accounts, public or private?
I'm a sales guy, so my LinkedIn and or Twitter and that kind of stuff. If we're posting things that I do all the time, and Facebook, I'm a public guy because I want people to see those types of things and get excited about what we're doing and contact me to buy a partnership.
All right. Number 4, jeans at work, all day, every day, never, or only on casual Fridays?
Any day possible.
All right. Number 5, coin toss, heads or tails?
I'll go heads.
And then finally, you score a touchdown. What's your go-to touchdown celebration?
I just watched the Barry Sanders documentary. I'm handing the ball to the ref.
That's been a popular answer here over the last few before the snap program. So yes, thank you for that, Ryan. Just a little fun segment we like to do here before we wrap up. Final question here today, and again, we can't thank you enough for giving time out of your busy schedule to be a part of this program. It's kind of that last message, that one thing. If there's only one thing students walk away with from today, that one nugget, that one tip, that one trick, what is that one thing you want somebody to leave today's program with?
Look, it's a great question, Jake. The industry is great. There's so many different things that can come with it. You meet a lot of awesome people. You get to live in some really great places of the country. And as I mentioned, I lived in Chicago, New Orleans, the Bay Area, Cleveland, which is my home for a good majority of my career. You have to do things to set yourself apart because the competition for a lot of these positions to get your foot in the door is pretty fierce. Set yourself apart, do things when you're in college that set you up for success. And you got to continue to work hard. Even after you get the job, the hard work doesn't end there. You got to continue to press and do things, to do little things on a daily basis to make yourself valuable to the organization, and you'll have a long and prosperous career.
I think that's a great way to wrap up this program, this Before the Snap series here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame today, featuring friend of the Hall of Fame, friend of the youth education and leadership team here at the Hall of Fame, Ryan Robbins, the Vice President of Business Development with Hall of Fame Village. Ryan, again, thank you so much for being part of the program today and taking time to sit down with us, answer some questions, and answer some questions from our students who tuned in.
Awesome. Thanks for the opportunity, and hope everyone has a great weekend.
Yep, same here. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, whatever you have to do on social media to all the things here, Pro Football Hall of Fame. We are a very, very short time away from announcing our newest class, the class of 2024, here very shortly as our staff makes its trek to Las Vegas to announce those new members here. So make sure you tuned in to all that. Make sure you tune in to all the great stuff going on in Hall of Fame Village, all the construction progress, and all the great things that are coming here right to our backyard in Northeast Ohio as part of Hall of Fame Village. Next program is going to be January 26th, a week here from today. We're going to have Jabri Blunt of the Las Vegas Raiders, who's not only a community relations employee for the Raiders, but also has a pretty cool tie-in. And if you know the last name Blunt, you know what I'm talking about. Pretty cool tie-in here to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So for myself, from Nathan, Jerry, our special guest, Ryan Robbins, and all of our staff here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you next week.